All right, it is 1:45. It is the appointed date and time of the Fayette County Board of Commissioners rezoning public hearing. This one is for our ZA 24-01, an amendment to the zoning ordinance for utility scale solar. And we will have the reading of the legal notice by the Planning Commission member in a minute. If I could just make this, we have a lot of people here. If you could please silence your phones and your devices. I just want you to be on record that this hearing is being recorded by Fayette TV. This hearing is also being recorded by the court reporter. If you need her information, she can get that to you after the meeting. So please state your name prior to speaking so that the court reporter knows in her transcripts who was speaking and who was saying stuff. As such, do not speak while somebody else is speaking. She can only record who is speaking at that time. So if everybody's talking at once, there was no recording of the meeting. When you speak, there will be a 3-minute time limit. You may not yield your time to another person. And you can pose comments or questions. If I know the answer, I'll answer the question. If I don't know the answer, I may not be able to answer that question today. So just to give you that background. So if, Sarah, if you want to read the
notice is hereby given that the Board of Fayette County Commissioners will hold a public hearing in the meeting room of the Gallatin Building, first floor, 2 West Main Street, Uniontown, Pennsylvania, on October 17, 2024 at 1:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time to hear ZA 24-01, an amendment to the Fayette County zoning ordinance creating a subsection for utility scale solar farms. The proposed amendment amends Article 1, Section 1000-108 definitions, Article 2, 1000-203, Table 1, permitted uses and uses by special exception, and Article 7, Section 100879, which creates a subsection titled Utility Scale Solar Farms. This amendment requires that utility scale solar farms will be permitted by special exception within M1 light industrial and M2 heavy industrial zoning districts, as well as specifying the general standards and requirements set forth more fully in the amendment. A copy of the proposed amendment is available at www.fayettecountypa.org. It is on file at the Office of Planning, Zoning, and Community Development, which office is located in the Fayette County Gallatin Building, Uniontown, Pennsylvania, where said amendment may be examined. Interested persons or their agents may appear at the aforementioned hearing to offer testimony in favor of or in opposition to the proposed rezoning. Conclusion of the public hearing, the Board of Commissioners may hold a special meeting to consider taking action regarding the proposed amendment.
Okay. And Sarah, you will be presenting the case for the solar ordinance.
And just as Commissioner Moore said, between myself and Solicitor Hyde, on behalf of the Planning Commission, we may or may not be able to answer some of the Planning Commission's rationale on some of the proposed language. We will do our best. Okay, so in terms of the timeline for creating this amendment, somewhere in May of June of this year, myself went to the, Sarah Harvey, Planning, Zoning, Community Development. I went to the Planning Commission asking if they thought we needed a solar farm ordinance for some of these large-scale solar farms that are coming into the county. I brought, at that time, the Planning Commission samples of zoning hearing board resolutions from some previous large-scale solar farms that were approved. And I took input from them on what types of regulations that they were important to them, like zoning districts, setbacks, buffer yards. June 27th of 2024, I scheduled a work session per the Planning Commission's request. We came with a lot of sample ordinances, guidance documents, educational information, because this is also new to us as well. It was determined, kind of where to start, what regulations we were going to utilize to begin with the amendment. From June until August, myself and Attorney Hyde, we met several times to write, adjust, review the proposed amendment. In August, I sent the proposed amendment to the Planning Commission for their review, and I asked for their comments back to me by August 28th. August 30th, myself and Solicitor Hyde met again to review the comments received and to fine-tune the proposal. September 12th of 2024, the proposed amendment ordinance was presented to the Planning Commission, reviewed the proposal as well as the comments received by the board members. The Planning Commission made a motion to recommend approval of the proposal with a few minor changes. And the motion passed unanimously, but I will note that 3 Planning Commission members were absent. So what the board has in front of them today is the proposal from the Planning Commission. This is the draft proposal, and the decision is obviously up to the commissioners. If there are any changes to be made prior to the adoption, if there's any recommended changes, if they're not de minimis in nature, then if they're not, then it would have to go back to the Planning Commission. So the commissioners can listen to the comments today and ask the Planning Commission to re-review the proposal with comments gathered. If you have any comments that you had written down, if you can submit that for our file, that would be lovely. If not, you can absolutely just read it directly in. And like I said, we may or may not be able to answer every question in regards to what the Planning Commission's rationale as to why that language may or may not be in there. Some key points. This is a permitted use. The proposal is permitted use by special exception in M1 and M2, light industrial and heavy industrial. The setbacks, 300 feet from a property line. Transformers must be 600 feet from property lines. 600 feet from a property line that holds a historic building classification, 1,200 feet away from any state route, and 300 feet from a township route, roadway, or other right-of-way passage. When adjacent to a residentially zoned property, all setbacks must be 600 feet from that property. The maximum acreage in this proposal is 30 acres. And there is nothing in this proposed amendment that prohibits an applicant from seeking a variance from any provision. Some of the documents, I'm going to get a little lengthy here. Some of the documents that the board reviewed, and myself and Solicitor Hyde reviewed. So the board Planning Commission did give feedback. They wanted me to look up some information to learn more about solar farms. So I looked at some information from energy.gov, PNWNL, Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, Livermore, California, and California Department of Energy. Solar Ordinance Models 1, 2, and 3 from state of Pennsylvania. Ordinances from Cumberland County, Bucks County, Montour County, Damascus Township, Wayne County, Lycoming County, Page County, Virginia, PA DEP Energy Programs Office, and those are some guidance documents. Penn State Cooperative Extension, Marcellus Center for Outreach and Research, more guidance documents. We reviewed the Wharton Township Solar Ordinance and the proposed Spring Hill Township Solar Ordinance. Okay, we also reviewed, and I apologize if my civics is wrong because it's been a long time. Hopefully somebody can correct me if I say this incorrectly. House Resolution 87, this called for a study regarding wildlife corridors and wildlife threats to Pennsylvania's wildlife. This is more specifically, though, for development as it relates to transportation and roadways. However, there's language in our proposal about wildlife corridors, and the board did look at the study for that was called for. The study has different recommendations on positions to be created to aid with wildlife corridors, and this allows for feedback from agencies such as Department of Agriculture, DCNR, DEP, Department of Transportation, Fish and Boat Commission, Game Commission, Turnpike Commission. Then we also looked at, and this was introduced in June of 2023, Senate Bill 798, and that's an act introducing legislation to prohibit large-scale solar developments on prime Pennsylvania farmland. That includes class 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, these are just documents that they reviewed. So prior to this year, there were 4 solar farms that have come before the zoning hearing board that were approved. One was in Luzerne Township, one was in Nicholson Township, one was in Spring Hill Township, and one was in Dunbar Township. 2 of these 4 have moved forward with land development, permitting, and construction. Petitions are scheduled for the following: Georges Township, Nicholson Township, Upper Tyrone Township, 2 in Luzerne Township, 2 in German Township, North Union Township, and another in Georges Township. And between yesterday and today, petitions came in for solar farms, 1 in Springfield Township, Luzerne Township, Georges Township, Franklin Township, Bulskin Township, and Nicholson Township. So there's a lot of the docket. So myself, the Planning Commission wanted to know what kind of concerns I'm getting from citizens in regards to, what their concerns were. Sitting in on the more recent hearings, the things that I've heard a lot: proximity to schools, the zoning district, proximity to residential properties, wildlife, public safety, contamination to soils, contamination to water, property values, view shed, proximity to local park and historic districts, the makeup of the panels, and decommissioning. Hopefully I didn't miss anything, because several of you have been in some of these hearings as well. Those are the main concerns that the feedback that we see in those hearings, and that was brought to the Planning Commission as, they asked, well, what are the concerns that you're hearing, and so that they can address those things. So, for the most part, that sums up our summary, where we're at today, and why we're here. So I don't know what direction you want to.
Well, the next thing is swearing in. So if you plan on offering testimony today, if you could raise your right hand. So I'm trying to just get a count here. If you could repeat after me, I solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. So it seemed to be about 25 people or so. Do you want to comment? Do you have any comment you want to make, or
Do you anything on the split it, like,
I don't know how to do
pros and
that.
cons?
I don't know how to do that.
Okay.
So if I could just make a comment, the purpose of the solar ordinance as it's written is to establish requirements for construction, operation, and decommissioning of utility-scale commercial solar facilities, to provide standards for the placement, design, construction, monitoring, and removal of solar facilities, to address public safety, minimize impacts on scenic, natural, and historic resources, and to provide adequate financial assurance of decommissioning. So that's the purpose of the ordinance. It was actually May 2nd when I approached Sarah, concerned about a solar ordinance, and I think that's when I asked Sarah to get with the Planning Commission. My 2 concerns, or my initial thoughts on solar were it needs to be in the right place, and needs to be in the right place. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought here. And with proper setbacks and buffer zones and things like that. So, and I can see that they addressed that. The 2 concerns that I have with regard to this amendment and with all the zoning amendments are any legal challenges that could happen. And I also look in to see where anything conflicts, So if there are conflicts in here where, if I think it's a conflict and, number 1 says something, number 5 says something else, then I'm not sure which it is, those things have to be addressed. Also, there is a practicality of, when it says in here, certain things are gonna happen, we have to know as a planning and zoning department, well, who's doing that? Is that something that the county would be responsible for? Is that kind of something that the municipality would be responsible for? So there are some questions there with regard to some of those things. So with that, Vince, I don't know if you want to say
Pretty
anything.
much covered it. I think today the most important thing is to get input from everybody that wants to speak here, pro or con on this, before we make any final decisions on it. So this testimony is very valuable to us to hear what the concerns are of the people of Fayette County. So glad that a lot of people showed up, and I'm glad that a lot of people are going to provide comments to us. We haven't really seen this ordinance until it came to us last week, and we've been looking at it very closely to understand it better. But we didn't really have much input on the front end of this, and that's that's where we're actually absorbing it as we're speaking. These comments will be very helpful to getting us to where we can make a final decision on this at some point in the future.
And I'm sorry. Okay, Vince?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to make sure that, first off, it's very safe for all the residents. And I just spoke to a resident just yesterday about the fact of it being too close. That's why there's that setback. And I want to make sure that it's not an inconvenience for residents, that's up against a property that is eligible for a solar farm. And then also the next phase of that is somewhere down the road, it's going to wear out. And with it wearing out, want to make sure that it's taken care of properly, and that there's a lot of safety nets there to make sure people aren't paying the price. Some of the areas that I've actually done a little bit of research and touch base on with some of the energy companies, and this is a concern out there depending on which way the ordinance goes. There's one gentleman I heard about that put a solar farm in and was promised the money's coming back to them when the energy, and it came back where he didn't get a red cent because the grid didn't work right. So any of you that are dealing with this, you want to make sure that there's some safety in this area, because if you actually do some of these things and they get nothing from it, that's not a good thing, except maybe your own electric paid for. But just be careful for the future. Just be careful. So that's all I have to say, and looking forward to what you're saying, what you're going to tell us.
So regardless of what happens here and how this plays out, just know that there are 11 municipalities in Fayette County that utilize their own zoning. Those are the boroughs of Perryopolis and Ohio, the cities of Connellsville and Uniontown, and the following townships: Washington, Manalapan, South Union, Spring Hill, Wharton, Stewart, and Henry Clay. So just to keep that in mind. And with that, with no other comment, we will go to public comment. Again, you'll be limited to 3 minutes. State your name prior to speaking, and we'll go from there. Sarah, do you want to help arrange that? Or?
Whoever wants to speak first, come up to the podium, and then if you can just form a line, get down this way so we can keep things moving.
Hi, my name's Rob Korinchak. I'm a resident of Upper Tyrone Township.
One more time, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, going fast. My name's Robert Korinchak, K-A-R-I-N-C-H-A-K. I live in Upper Tyrone Township, and there's actually a solar farm going to be built in my backyard. I don't know anything about any of this stuff, but what I've been reading about, what I've been looking up, since there's no ordinance, then it's pretty much every man for himself, and wherever we can get in while we can. So it seems like it's the Wild West. And these companies are going to come in from other places and take advantage of whatever they can take advantage of while the taking advantage of is available. And then we'll be forced to deal with it. Again, it's the Wild West, and we're not the cowboys, we're the Indians in this case, and we all know what happened to the Indians. They live on reservations now, and someone stole their land. So I would say the ordinance is well past needed, and any exceptions to it should be tabled until the ordinance is put in place. And otherwise, I think a lot of people are going to regret, having this done. Like you said, sir, big company comes in, promises the moon and stars, and delivers you nothing. And then they'll spend the rest of your life staring out the window where you used to see a nice field and a deer and everything, and you're looking at solar panels reflecting the glare into your house. So I think the ordinance is long overdue, and no exceptions should be made to any zoning until the ordinance is in place. Thank you.
Thank you.
For anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Charity Grimm-Krupa. I'm state representative for the 51st District. I'm here today in my individual capacity. I own land and reside in Spring Hill Township. I also own land in Georges. My district office is in German Township. Let me be clear, I am not against renewable energy. And if I talk fast, I'm trying to get my 3 minutes worth. I'm not against renewable energy, but we must be thoughtful about how and where we allow these industrial projects to take root and what the long-term cost will be, not just for us, but our children and our grandchildren. We need zoning ordinances that reflect those considerations. As a reminder, we can't ignore the fact that these industrial solar facilities are not economically viable without substantial federal subsidies. What we're facing here today in Fayette County is not the free market at work. Unfortunately, it's the result of poor government policy, wasteful government policy. Southwestern Pennsylvania doesn't exactly set any records for sunshine, particularly compared to places like Arizona and California. Furthermore, and something that I learned at the Georges Township hearing was these are out-of-state corporations. They're not going to be paying any income taxes to Pennsylvania. Unlike gas and oil, there's no impact fee that's going to be generating revenue for our local economies. And what about the energy they generate? At the Georges Township hearing, we learned that it's not that power, that energy is not going to be distributed to our local community members. So it's not going to reduce the rising costs that our residents and our community members are facing with respect to rising energy costs. Basically, these projects do nothing to help our local constituents. They just saddle us with the environmental and the economic burden. Speaking of environmental concerns, we all know that these solar panels are not recyclable. What that means is that after the end of their useful life, and right now they're estimating that it's going to be 20 years, but nobody really knows that because they haven't been around for 20 years. But at the end of whatever that time period is, if it's 3, 4, 5 years, hopefully 20, they're going to end up in a landfill. They're not just unsightly, they're a looming waste management disaster waiting to happen. And what about our farmland? We're losing farmland acreage across the Commonwealth and across the nation at alarming rates. These solar companies are preying on farmers, and if you're a farmer that's considering this, my heart goes out for you because we are in hard economic times, and it's predatory that these out-of-state companies are coming into the area and they're victimizing our farmers because they know you need money to survive, and my heart is with you on this issue. These farmers, many who have worked this land for generations, are at risk of being taken advantage of. They're offered quick money now, but the real cost comes later. When these corporations declare bankruptcy, they're going to leave the farmer or the farmer's children or the grandchildren responsible for the cost of cleanup and contamination. Is that my 3 minutes? That is remarkably unbelievable. I urge the commissioners not to wait. And I'm going to point out, for the record, any one of you can make a motion today to have your special meeting and to vote. Even if you don't get a second, and even if it's voted down, you'll be on record for wanting to move forward and not for stalling. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had so much more to say.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Darrell Becker. Charity stole some of my thunder, but I will tell you this. The Department of Agriculture has a census they do every 5 years. So I have 2007, 2012, 2017, and 2022 for Fayette County. Every successive census has shown a decrease in the amount of acreage of farms in Fayette County and the amount of farms in Fayette County. So we're looking at the future, we're looking to see what's going on. I sent you gentlemen a copy of the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau's policy book, and I would urge that you consider Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3 soils. If you tell them that they cannot go on anything other than blighted properties, and I would also suggest that if we get the Development Authority or somebody to check, what property does Fayette County and other institutions own around here that's blighted? This is where these solar farms should be going, not on prime farmland. And I'll bet my life that they never contacted you to ask your information about this because, like Charity said, they are predatory. They come in and they prey on people because they know that farmers are hurting right now. And that's sad that that's a commentary on where we're at. Fayette County is a beautiful county. And the agriculture here is that's #1 in the county. We need to protect it and consider the fact that this is going to be a generational effect. Now, we talked about maybe making people go to, if it's Class 1, 2, and 3, they have to rezone, okay? So now you're going to go rezone M1 or M2. You can't have pockets of that because if you do, when they leave, it's still going to be zoned M1 and it can't go back to agriculture. So we really have to be careful on what we're doing. I have 2 ordinances that they're 16 pages long. I will get them to you. One's from Indiana, and they talk about, I'll be real brief, talk about well testing, so that when you put these solar panels on there, you test prior to, you test during, and you test after, consistently, because we don't really know. I mean, we don't really know the answer to that. I just, I got 9 grandkids, they all live in Fayette County. I want to make sure that I do what I can to try to protect them, and we need to watch what we're doing about this. So please, don't hurry. Let's take our time and do it right. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could just respond to that. There is a provision in here for baseline water testing, and don't ask me where.
I should have said I just hoped
But, yeah, so, and then with regard to agriculture in Fayette County, our farmers are struggling. This drought this summer was the death knell for several farmers. I talked to one on Tuesday night and I said, hey, how's the farm going? And they go, Friday's our last day. And, at the same time, we want to protect our farm acreage. We don't want to not allow a farmer to have a source of income that may be necessary for him to continue his farm. So, but I talked to Secretary Redding from the Department of Agriculture. He's in on the same thing, testing for soil classes. That's not included in this ordinance.
So if I could add to that, I did read a lot of sample ordinances, and if I interpreted it correctly, and I have different, some of those counties that I listed out, they will allow, if you have class 1, 2, or 3 agricultural soil, they will only allow, let's say, 50% of the project to go on those class soils, all the way up to 75%, I think, is the most that I read. Yeah, that was it.
So that's one of the things I dislike about the ordinance is only allowing it on M1 and M2. What's going to happen, as Daryl said, farmers are going to subdivide a portion of their farm, have it rezoned M1. 30 years from now, when these properties are decommissioned, that property is still going to be M1. That zoning lasts forever. So I would rather see some sort of provision for ag be allowed in the zoning so that, as she said, even a portion of a farm could be zoned, and then when it's decommissioned, it's still ag.
We can't produce class 1, 2, and 3 soil. It's
Right.
here, it's not there.
Right.
They don't have a whole lot of 1. We do have a lot of 2 and 3.
Right.
But if we give that away, it's never coming back.
Right.
So we
Yeah.
can't just,
Okay,
Thank you.
you're
sorry.
good.
But if you have M1 and M2 hanging out there, you could put anything in those types of zonings. That's the least restrictive. That's kind of a scary thing, to have them out there after that they're decommissioned. You have them all over the county, if they got approved.
Okay.
Mark Moore.
I'm sorry, Mark?
Mark Moore, M-O-O-R-E. And good afternoon, commissioners and public. All right, we appreciate Fayette County's diligent efforts on the proposed ordinance. However, we urge the commissioners to pause and consider the perspectives of all stakeholders. It is crucial to understand how this ordinance will impact property rights, economic prosperity, and the preservation of residents' properties, ultimately fostering a healthier community and economy. Restricting solar development to the industrial zoning districts excludes the majority of landowners in Fayette County, compelling them to rezone their properties to comply with the ordinance. This places an undue burden on landowners, potentially reclassifying their land as industrial, which many landowners have expressed they will not do. Solar energy is not an industrial use, and it does not share any of the common characteristics of an industrial use, such as noise, emissions, or traffic, nor does it place any burden on public services like sewer or water. Additionally, the ordinance includes many burdensome requirements which make projects uneconomical or otherwise infeasible. We would ask that rather than place unnecessary restrictions on solar projects and remove the potential opportunity available to many landowners, that you take the time to work with us and other stakeholders and to understand how we can develop these projects in harmony with and to the benefit of the community. In Wayne County, where I live, Prospect 14, the company I work for, has engaged with the county commissioners there to provide a developer's perspective and facilitate open discussion that consider property rights and financial struggles of many family farms, which can benefit from the income generated by solar and thus keep their land. We respectfully request that the commissioners either vote down or table the ordinance and establish a working group to hear all stakeholders' viewpoints. This collaborative approach will help build relationships and address the ordinance's details, particularly as you speak of the zoning and having to rezone, setbacks, and appropriate performance standards. Furthermore, we suggest pausing the discussion to await the outcome of legislation introduced by Republican State Senator Gene Yaw regarding the decommissioning of solar energy facilities, Senate Bill 211. We believe Fayette County's existing special exemption process has sufficient permitting protection for the interim, as it empowers the county to scrutinize and impose necessary restrictions on proposed projects. Thank you for your consideration. And
Hi, my name is Jennifer Noski, and I'm from Brownsville, Pedcraft. We just found out about this 2 weeks ago when we got the notice in the mail. We just had our hearing yesterday. I am not as suave as them people who are talking here. I'm a common citizen of the county who's going to be impacted by these panels. I was at that meeting yesterday, and the gentleman, I believe his name was Gus, that's presenting to put these panels in, he stated that they did a survey of where they're going to put the panels. However, he did not know that Hopewell Church was there. He did not know that 2 cemeteries were there. He did not know that Pencroft is a historical community. He was unaware of that. He did not know that there was a stone quarry, which I did not know, within the grounds of the solar panel proposed site. If they really did their homework, he should have known these things. He's the guy bringing it in. So that's number one. Number two, years back, they were planning on putting the highway 43 through that property. The historical district of Pencraft being there stopped that from happening. How are they going to put solar panels through that same plot of land now? How is that different? Number three, I am not familiar with this term, special exception. So I looked it up, I Googled it under Wikipedia. Anybody can Google it and look it up. In the first or second sentence, it says that basically you have to listen to the people, okay? And that the people are usually the ones that are basically walked over. And there's a private, there's a rule or I don't know what to say. I forgot my phone. But it's on Wikipedia if you look it up under creating a special exception. And it just hurts the people that live near these properties because we have invested our whole entire life savings in these homes. And now, if we're getting close to retirement and we want to sell our property in a few years, okay? And that was our investment. We don't have a lot of money like wealthy people do. Our investment as poor working citizens is our homes. So, in 2 years down the road, when I go to sell my house, can you guarantee that I'm going to have people wanting to buy my house because that solar farm's going to be there?
Wrap it up, please.
Okay. I thank you.
Thank you.
I rambled a little bit. I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Fain. I live at 461 Hopewell Road. And I agree with the first guy that spoke. He said they're putting it in the backyard of his house. They're putting it in the front yard of my house. It's 450 feet in front of me, where there was cornfields and deer running through. We have coyotes, we have everything out there. I asked him, I said, did you take a survey on any of the animals or anything like that that live there? No, he did not. So what I'm saying is he did not do anything that he's supposed to do. I said, did you come out and look at our house? I live in a historical residential house. It was number 49 built by Eleanor Roosevelt. And I asked him, I said, well, what's the decimal point on each one of those? Oh, it's not that high. I said, could you give me a paper on what it you know, like so I can look it up and see what it does put out. I said, well, what about this? I read, I looked all this up, and it said that if birds land on any of the batteries, they can burn their feathers. He said, oh, it don't run by batteries. I said, yes, it does. He said, oh, well, they're in the panels. I said, what's in the panels? He said, well, batteries. You just told me they don't run on batteries. I said, did you even come out and look at the historical houses out there that Eleanor Roosevelt built? You know, he said somebody. I said, no. Did you come out and look at them? I live here, my front yard, there's a road, and it was cornfields where all the deer used to go, and now I'm going to have an eyesore with solar farms sitting there. I'm sorry. If I have to move, which I don't want to, I love all my neighbors, they're the best, but I don't want to come out my front door and sit on my porch and look at an eyesore. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Chantel Hutchins, and today I'm representing Chantel Hutchins. And I'm representing the Mountain Watershed Association, whose mission is to protect, preserve, and restore the greater Youghiogheny River watershed. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the county commissioners and the zoning and planning department and all the parties involved who are proactive in this effort to manage the proposals and the development of the Unity scale solar facilities. And secondly, thank you for the opportunity for public to provide comment on this matter. As many of you know, this is not MWA's first time providing comment to the Fayette County Commissioners on protective and proactive measures for our area. In fact, this is the second time this year that our county commissioners have acted as such strong leaders with these measures. Just in March of 24, our commissioners unanimously adopted a special exception ordinance which provided hyper-local oversight over proposed injection wells, and we believe this type of proactive leadership is rare and we appreciate it. Further, we believe that the special exceptions are necessary and needed for any type of development, and the Mountain Watershed Association agrees that solar arrays should not just be placed anywhere, including prime agricultural lands, forested areas, headwater areas, in residential communities, etc. We would like to make note that in addition to the stringent special exception language, that the previously adopted injection well special amendment, that stringent ordinance or exception language be amended or adopted to any type of industrial development in Fayette County. In our review of the draft language for the utility scale solar facilities, we noted the following. In section F5, it indicates a 600-foot setback. How is the setback distance determined, and can this be expanded to include a more appropriate buffer? Some examples of setbacks, restrictions, and easements from a 2020 Hanover Township and Luzerne County zoning ordinance for their solar systems. All major solar energy systems shall be a minimum of 1,000 feet from any zoning district boundary line and property line of existing residential or public use. It shall not be located within 500 feet of any public or private road right-of-way, nor within 100 feet of any other property lines. A property owner who has installed or intends to install a solar collection system shall be responsible for negotiating with other property owners in the vicinity of the necessary solar easements and shall record the easements with the county and the recorder of deeds, and they shall provide a 50-foot planned buffer screen along all the property lines. And finally, they shall conceal solar collector supporting structures, fixtures with piping as necessary. In section L, the language reads that in addition to the baseline testing, testing to monitor water contamination from runoff shall be conducted every 12 months, that the unity scale solar facility remains in operation or upon written request of the zoning administrator. We recommend increasing that frequency of monitoring and sampling to at least monthly or quarterly. In section M, the language reads, in addition to the baseline testing, testing to monitor soil contamination shall be conducted every 2 years. To the duration of the permit, we recommend increasing the frequency to 1 year. And some other conditions, we recommend requiring engagement opportunities with the community to the nearest proposed or active utility site. And additionally, we're recommending requiring engagement opportunities with local municipalities, local stakeholder groups, but not limited to the conservation district, agricultural groups, and watershed groups. In addition to the references and the comments I noted, I have a series of draft ordinances from other Pennsylvania municipalities for comparison, which I'm sure mirror the ones you've already studied. Thank you for your time and consideration for our comments.
You can provide that information, because that was a lot to write down quickly, so thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jeff Graham. I'm in support of the ordinance as written, unless it should be changed to be more restrictive and using the information that the previous speaker offered. As a farmer, I think it's inappropriate to have special exceptions to use farming land as M1 land. My major problem with these projects is the grift that is the unspoken money source. The people have not been told where the money's coming from. Anybody that can do simple arithmetic can see the amount of energy planned in this project and look at the rates and know that there's no return on investment for business. So money's been taken from the people to fund these projects without their knowledge, and they've selected communities across the country that are in need, places where there aren't great employment centers, and they're taking advantage of people. Therefore, I'm not in support of all of these requests that are pouring through. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Frank Muldoon. Okay. When we was fighting the stem cell waste dump at the church in Oak Hill Baptist, we was told there at one of the meetings that don't worry about any of this here solar farms being put on ag land. It's exactly what we was told. Don't worry about it. Not going to happen. Well, most of the people in this room are from Georges and Nicholson and Springfield, and we all moved to the country for a reason. That was because that's where we wanted to live. And we don't want this crap in our faces. And what they're doing isn't right. And what they're telling us is not right. The last meeting that we was here, they're telling us that they're going to call the fire departments, get in touch with the fire departments, and they're going to supply all the materials and stuff for these people, the fire departments, and the fire department's going to have to lock the electric out if they have a fire or something. What fire department has 10 electricians or whatever with them that's going to lock this fire out? I got a degree in electronics, and that's a bunch of BS. If you're going to have people located in North Carolina running this thing on a computer, you need somebody here 3 shifts a day to make sure that there's no fires or anything in that place where they have to lock that fire out. And I know for a fact that they didn't get a hold of the main fire department that takes care of that jurisdiction. And another thing, they're not telling us how many megawatts is coming out, and about the inverters and stuff that they have to change this from DC to AC. They say they're just going to run right down the line. If you run so many megawatts down that line, you're going to melt those lines because they're not made for that. You have to tie into something like what Hatfield had over there. If you want to put one of these farms in, put it over there. Put it someplace where there's no, it's not going to affect people. Another thing is, when you live in these townships like we do, we're Class 2 citizens. We don't have the same rights as somebody else. We can't tell people, hey, we don't want this. Class 1, oh, that's different. Just because you're a Class 2 because you decide to live in the country, no, that's not right either. I got more, but I've had enough of it. Because nobody's going to listen to you anyhow.
Sir, just, so for the board here, I did speak with our emergency management agency, and to place language in this proposed ordinance, and one of the items is for Knox boxes and keys to be provided at locked entrances for the emergency personal access, and then the owner-operator of the facility shall be required to submit an incident response plan to Fayette County and Fayette County Emergency Management. Maybe more.
At the last meeting, they said they are located in North Carolina or wherever it is, and just a computer, that's the only thing they got, just taking care of it. And they said that if there's a fire or something there, the fire department has to go out there and disconnect that power to put a fire out.
Which one are you talking about? Because
Georges
we'll work
Township.
We're
on
talking about the one they're talking about, Nicholson.
Nicholson Township,
the
Right.
proposed one or one that's already there?
The one that's
proposed.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be the same for all of them, though, that they would have to call the fire departments?
Right. So the way the ordinance reads, that they have to set up what's called an emergency management plan. So we, in Fayette County, our emergency management department is for over so many employees, you provide a plan in case there's problems. So, or depending on what is stored on your site, you may have to provide a plan. So there are emergency management plans for certain companies that they have on file so that they know how to respond and they know what apparatus to bring whenever there's an emergency. So.
I'm Beverly Dennis. I'm from Wharton Township. And as I understand it, there's supposed to be some going in on our road on the Kelly property. Kelly property, neither one of those boys live even near One's in Addison, PA, and the other one lives in Texas. For us peons that live and right up where they're wanting to put these solar panels. There's two ponds. There's a guy that lives there, and if he looks out any window in his home, all he's going to see are these panels. He's got a spring for his drinking water. They can divert all they want to, but we don't know, first of all, what's in all of these panels. What's the health going to be maybe 15, 20 years from here, okay? I'm looking not so much for myself because I'm in my 80s, but I'm looking for my kids, my grandkids, my great-grandkids, and the farmers that do live around there that would like to grow their crops and whatever. But the runoff, we don't know about the runoff. Habitat loss, ecosystems, water use, the hazardous materials, solar panels, and the landscape change. I don't want to look at these things. I don't want the glare from them. To me, a field that could be farmed, even if it isn't, if it's grown up in weeds, I'd rather look at it than I would these panels. Another thing is the property values. I've worked hard all my life for what I've got, and I don't want to lose it. So I know you commissioners have an awful hard job, but what you do, please, whatever you do, make a good, honest protecting us. Make your decision. You got a rough job ahead of you, and I hope to God that somebody will help us, that we don't have a lot of money. We've worked all our life for what we do have, and I'd like to keep it, and I'd like to see my grandkids and my great-grandkids, and even on down that, not have to put up with something that we could have maybe stopped. Thank you. That's about all I've got to say.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Doug Carton. I am the Vice President of Development at Prospect 14, a Pennsylvania-based solar development company. I am speaking today on behalf of an industry partner, ENGIE. ENGIE is an experienced renewable energy developer, owner, and operator with over 600 solar projects across the U.S. We respectfully urge you not to pass the proposed ordinance as is, and instead work with stakeholders to craft an ordinance that allows for reasonable solar development that respects private property rights and while preserving the agricultural characteristics of Fayette County. Limiting solar farms to only light industrial and heavy industrial zoning districts prevents most property owners in the county from participating in solar and may lead to rezoning properties that opens them up to more intensive industrial future uses, such as auto repair shops, distribution centers, and truck stops, which are all permitted by right in the industrial zoning districts. In contrast, operating solar farms are a low-impact form of development with no additional strain on county resources. They require no water or trash pickup services. They create no emissions or loud noises. They do not create more traffic on public roads. Once constructed, solar farms quietly operate on their own with periodic maintenance visits while generating a reliable source of property tax revenue for the county and lease payments for their property owners. Solar farms can also be developed to be complementary and not compete with agricultural land uses. As part of the standard vegetation plan, ENGIE plants deep-rooted pollinator-friendly native grasses, forbs, and wildflowers, which improve soil health and hydrology, reduce erosion, and function to keep farm fields fallow for 30 to 40-year project life. The result is a meadow habitat that is readily able to be returned to agricultural use once the solar farm is decommissioned. ENGIE's native pollinator vegetation approach has been featured in recent articles in the New York Times and National Geographic. Distributed solar projects can also help to keep farms in families and not be sold. Our landowners are typically looking for an alternative use for their land to diversify their income away from traditional farming. Rents paid by solar to landowners are consistent sources of income for 30 to 40 years after a project is built. Once the project has reached the end of its life, the solar equipment is easily removed and the land is returned to its pre-solar condition. We look forward to continuing to work with county officials to craft a sustainable solar ordinance that provides net benefits to residents of Fayette County. Myself and 3 members of my staff are available in the audience if anyone has any questions.
Thank you.
You're good, Dave.
My name's Dave Smith. First of all, I just really hate that term you say, solar farm, because there's nothing about farming. There's nothing about farming. And when did come feeding the earth, feeding the people, come more important than a field full of solar panels? Solar panels made in Japan, China. You know, it sickens me. I didn't serve my country it's just disgusting. I don't know, but I'm totally against it. It's disgusting. Solar's coming to Fayette County because we're poverty, because our poverty numbers are down, and people are getting rich, and then you have people in office that are getting rich because they know solar's coming, and they're telling their friends, and they're making money, and it's disgusting. There's nothing. It should not be called a solar farm, and I'm totally against it, 100% of the ways. I had a whole speech, but I can't even get past that point because I don't know. I wake up every morning to my cows and my chickens and my animals, and I don't want to see fences up and solar. It's killing birds. It's killing insects. They break, they crack. The toxics get down into the water streams. Our water in Nicholson Township in our area is the best in the world. And we're going to take another chance. Hey, why not? A poison in something else that our grandkids are going to have. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Dr. Tony Lamadou. I live in Smithfield, Pennsylvania.
Can you spell your last name?
Tony, and spell my last name?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, I forgot. No, okay, it's capital L, capital H, O, double M as in Mary, E-D-I-E-U. Okay? It means the man of God, which of course is not me. I've heard all the kind of emotional things and also some very public kind of law things about what we can do and what we can't sell and what we can sell and how we don't have to, if we don't want to, worry about who's building solar farms next to us. And that's too bad for me because I grew up on a Hereford grass-fed farm. And boy, I'm telling you, there's nothing like grass-fed beef. Jeff has them. Once in a while, he gives me a pound, and it's worth every... Okay, now, the deal is that my husband and I moved to Fayette County because we were working. We had good jobs down here, but we fell in love with it. And we could leave now, but we're not going to. We love it. We think it's paradise. And I don't see, somebody said we're considered second-class citizens. Oh, yeah, don't I know it. So I want you to stop using us. Stop using us for gas lines, stop using us for electric lines. I have both of them running through my property, and I still pay taxes on them. So please, do me a favor, and I could beg you, but it's not going to do any good. Listen to my sister out in California and her husband who have an orange ranch. And I keep getting a picture from them or a sign from them saying, no farms, no food. And that's where we're going, especially here. So anyway, that's it. That's my emotional plea. I'm already shaking. It's terrible. He asked me to spell my name. It's so hard.
There's all these cameras in here.
Thank you, by the way. Thank you.
Commissioners, my name is Ryan Robinson, Georges Township, Fayette County resident, lifelong. Thank you for the opportunity that we have here today as a collective group to speak on behalf or against the proposed ordinance. The one thing I was thinking about in the back of the room is the butterfly effect. Every person here represents 10, 12, 20, 50, 100 members of their families that are all living in this area, or most likely a majority of them live in this area. So when you're looking at these ordinances, when you're looking at solar, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions: community, economy, environment. If you can answer yes to those 3 questions, you can pass anything. Solar does not help the community, it does not help our economy, it does not help our environment. It never will. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing. We were just told, well, in the rezoning, that we could have truck stops, or we could have, do they benefit the community? Do they benefit the economy? Do they benefit the environment? You guys need to ask yourself that question on behalf of all your voters, all your constituents. You guys are asking yourselves those questions. Does it benefit us? The answer is a resounding no. We call these grid scale solar facilities utility scale. Are they a utility? Are they a governed utility? A utility to me creates, generates, transmits, distributes to the public. A utility is an electric utility that distributes to the community that they are serving. We have electric poles in front of our houses. They are serving us. Not a single grid scale solar farm proposed by any developer who doesn't live in Fayette County, by the way. I don't know that we have any grid scale solar developers in Fayette County, are going to be able to tell you that they will feed that community, that they will supply that community, that they will potentially lower electric costs. I am very pragmatic on this situation. I am not a stop sign. I've built electric lines and been in the industry for 25 years. What I'm asking is, how does it benefit the community? If we can put it into our local lines and you can tell the community that your bills are going to be lower, then I think you're going to have a lot of people for that. But in the case of every grid scale solar facility, I liken it to the emerald ash boring beetle. They're going to come in, they're going to use our resource, much like the gas wells did. They're going to leave a skeleton behind. Every one of us drives down the road and sees dead ash trees. Well, in 30 years, our kids and our grandkids are going to see vacant solar fields. So I just ask you to weigh the benefits against the community your constituents are part of, the economy. How is it taxed? How do we make money as a community from it? Does it bring money into our area, or does it go to where the developer is from? Ask yourself those questions. Does it help the environment? Those 3 tests on everything in your life that you guys vote on, I think are accurate and a safe way to judge whether something's morally right, ethically right, and possible.
Can you wrap it up?
Oh, I'm done? Okay. Stop asking what we can do and ask what we should do.
Thank you.
I didn't realize that was that fast.
Yeah, it does. It goes quick.
Good afternoon, gentlemen commissioners. My name is Douglas Schultes. I'm a member of the bar here at Fayette County. I'm a lifelong resident of Nicholson Township, solicitor for the township, solicitor for Point Marion, solicitor for Fairchance. I did provide a copy of a letter to you gentlemen the last couple days regarding some viewpoints I wanted to enumerate, not only for myself but for landowners that I represent here in the county. And I'm not against the ordinance. I think it's a good idea to have an ordinance and have some, what I want to say, rules and regulations for what we're doing. My only concern is things that have been brought up already is, one, the M1 light industrial, M2 light industrial. Like Commissioner Vasiti said, who knows what could go in there after that has been rezoned to that nature. And I'm afraid that a great deal of rezoning petitions will be before you gentlemen, as landowners who have previously leased with different companies are going to try to be able to keep their leases by asking this particular board to rezone. I'm also concerned with the 30-acre parcel limit. I don't know if the developers would be positive or negative against that, but I hate to limit that. I would suggest that this is an opportunity for landowners, farmers. As we heard stated earlier, it is very hard to make a living doing this. You're paying taxes. It isn't that profitable to grow crops or have cattle or things of that nature. And therefore, we have an ability here to be able to make money on our land. And whether it's farmland or strip land, or we have so much of that in the county that is land that it doesn't have anything on it but blackberries. And I suggest this is a way for us to be able to obtain some more tax bases. We have these solar farms, be able to tax these things. Also, I'm a school director for the Albert Gallatin School District. And speaking to the board, we're considering talking to these companies to see if our vacant land will be something that we could be used to make additional resources for our school district. It's something that, you know, we have vacant land and we're not doing anything with it. Maybe we can be able to raise some money for the school. As the commissioners know, we always need money in education. And I think that the commissioners should consider, I believe there's a happy medium for everybody. No one's saying there shouldn't be restrictions or regulations, but I would ask the commissioners to not limit this because there is good here too. And so I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jed.
Thank you.
All right, my name is Dr. Garrett Breakiron. I am also for some restrictions, but I think that the restrictions in here would pretty much limit any kind of solar in this county. One thing about, Mr. Soltis even said, M1, M2, that pretty much takes out agricultural land. So I don't agree with that. One thing that with solar being put in, like on our farm, which is a farm that we don't raise crops, we don't have any animals. It's just 200 acres of hunting land, to be blunt with you. But the thing is that the tax revenue that the county would get, the townships would get, by that turning from clean and green into a tax revenue base. And again, this has been mentioned before, it's tough. A lot of my friends are farmers, and it's tough to make a living as a farmer. You can do it, but yet it's tough. So if they can make a good income, whether it be with 30 acres, 60 acres, or whatever, I think that would be a benefit to some of our farmers. We were talking about the removal of these solar units. Well, if you really look at any of these contracts, in the contract, they are mandated to remove their solar units, and they're also in the contracts, if you look at them, they have to put money in escrow to remove this. So they're not going to be just left vacant and stagnant and be an eyesore. That's something that a lot of people don't realize. I think the limitation of 30 acres is bad, because what if you have 60 acres that could be utilized? Again, more revenue for the county, townships, whatever, and also more revenue for the landowner. Some of the setbacks I think are unreasonable. They're too much. Like on our farm, there's 2 residential houses, but yet it's woods. So even if you had 100 feet of woods, why would I need 300 feet of woods to block it? They're not going to see it anyway. So I think some of the restrictions are just too many feet, yards, whatever. And like, here's another one, setbacks of 600 feet from any residential zone property line. That's 2 football fields. That's, again, in my opinion, that's too far. And then another one, not to be located within 2 miles of another existing or permitted industrial utility scale solar facility. Well, if one farmer had a
You correct.
solar,
3 minutes.
I'm done. Okay, well, So much for the rest of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, y'all. My name's David Romanko. I'm a hillbilly farmer in Salt Lake Township, Fayette County.
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time? I apologize.
What, about being a hillbilly or a farmer?
No, I'm sorry, your name. I heard Salt Lake.
Okay, David Romanko.
Okay, thank you.
You know what, I came down here on short notice after talking to Commissioner Vince yesterday. I didn't realize this was happening, so bear with me. I pay my taxes, I do some farming, small farm, grow vegetables. But I want to let everybody know here that was saying about how farmers are struggling now. Farmers have been struggling for the last 2 centuries, so get that out of your mind about it's just been now. It's always been happening. Not getting any better, probably getting worse. But there needs to be common ground on these solar farms, and I believe there is. And it's you 3 bodies there that's going to have to make a good decision when you're writing this ordinance. But there's enough data from around the world on these damn solar panels. They've been using them for a long time, more than probably that I'm aware of. But when I pay my taxes, I have this land, I want the right to be able to do whatever I want with it. I have people, when I do farming, if I spread manures, they bitch at me because of the smell. When we plow, they bitch at me because of the dust. Farmers need another way to supplement their incomes. I've been through this with the gas leases, with oil leases, with coal mines. There's common ground. You guys need to do it, find a good way, but I think it can be done. And another thing here, it's not about lowering electric bills with these farms. It's about adding supply to the system. That's where we're at. We don't have enough supply, and everybody knows it. This is just in addition to what we have, but we need more. But I think this can provide a lot of things for the farmer, for everybody in general, the taxpayers, supply for the electric system. You know, that's probably about all I got to say. But just do the right thing. But there is common ground, and I think everybody has that in the back of their mind, and it can be found, and you know, with some more thought. But that the doctor before me, he said about everything I think that needed to be said. He covered a lot of things that I wanted, so appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Anna Skipper-Jewer. I'm an attorney with Babs Calland in Pittsburgh. I'm here on
Can you
behalf...
say your last name again? I'm sorry.
Skipper-Jewer. You do have a memo from my office. I
Yes.
believe it was submitted. I do have hard copies. I'm going to try not to take my full 3 minutes, as nobody wants to hear the lawyers talk that much. But I'm here today on behalf of Prospect 14. You heard from some of my clients earlier. Some of you have seen my face before. You know I'm familiar with the issues surrounding utility scale solar. On the one issue of connection to the community, I urge you to take a look at the issue of community solar and ask some of your state reps why we can't do that in Pennsylvania. But today I want to talk to you very briefly about the legitimate use of utility scale solar, the balance with property rights within Fayette County, and the ability through reasonable, well thought out regulation, which I think you're on track to do, but I'd urge you to take some more time, to equitably balance the interests of the community and of those within your community that wish to engage with this legitimate use on their property, even when it is agricultural. My primary concerns, and they're outlined in the memo from my colleague, are the limitation to the M1 and M2 district, which typically is not suitable for these types of uses, and will restrict, as some of the gentlemen just stated before me, the ability of your farmers to supplement their income with, again, a legitimate use which can be, through reasonable regulation, can reduce the impact on the community. The other issues I have are with some of the setbacks and some of the requirements which I believe are going to be duplicative or preempted by state regulation. I'd ask you to take a very close look at your zoning map and determine where you're actually permitting these uses if you apply all of the regulations that you've put in place. We do know it's difficult with your mapping system to get a thorough look at that, but I'd ask you to strongly consider it because I think you're restricting this much more than intended through these regulations. And so I appreciate you taking the time, and I'd ask that you table and consider consideration of other stakeholders in this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Riley Lampy. I am a Georges Township resident. I've been working tirelessly to raise community awareness about solar and to get your support for a solar ordinance. I think you know me. However, solar development has been an issue in our county since at least 2021, when an application for a solar farm was submitted in Gans, Spring Hill Township. It is unacceptable that we're here just now in 2024 to talk about a solar ordinance. This should have been on the table a long time ago. Mr. Vasides, you were on WMBS a couple nights ago. You stated that a development of a solar ordinance was a process, and you announced you wanted to hear public comment today. Okay, but in the last 6 months, almost the entire Georges Township community has stood beside me. We have provided you with public comment. We have gathered nearly 1,500 petition signatures. We have been in the Herald Standard newspaper. We've been on WMBS radio. We've been on KDKA Pittsburgh News. We've made it very clear. Social media has exploded with public comment. I know you guys have been reading it. We know that a vote is possible today, even though it was alluded that it wasn't possible today by Commissioner Dunn. You know very well that the only people here today who are speaking out against the solar ordinance are the solar companies and the landowners who are going to benefit from profit for solar development. Those are the only people here today speaking out against the solar ordinance. The vast majority of the people who live here, who pay taxes here, who vote here, want this solar ordinance. We wanted it years ago. You have the ability to vote today. At the very least, you have the ability to call a moratorium to halt any further applications for solar development. You have that ability. I emailed Mr. Vasides on September 9th and asked him if that was possible. He said he would check with the county solicitor on September 16th and let me know. I have not heard back. In conclusion, the question today is not whether the public wants a solar ordinance. The question today is, will you represent the will of the public or will you not? Will you vote today, or will you at the very least call a moratorium to halt any new applications for solar development in Fayette County until a solar ordinance is in place that everyone can agree on? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that permitted legally?
On the moratorium?
Yeah.
I don't know, I've not heard any discussion on it.
So, just to be clear on the voting today, it has been the practice of the county commissioners, anytime that we have a proposed zoning amendment like this, that we have not voted that day. You know, quite frankly, when I see something in the paper where we're going to have a hearing at 5:30, this is for another township or somewhere else, and at 6:30 they're going to have the meeting to vote on it. To me, that means the decision's already been made. I have a lot of questions on this ordinance. I have a lot of questions about some of the legal aspects of the ordinance. I have some concerns about things I see that conflict in the ordinance. And I have to pass and I have to vote on an ordinance that is that will meet all these and set in motion what we actually want to have happen here. And just passing an ordinance, just because we pass an ordinance, doesn't make that happen. So we will not be voting on this ordinance today. We will be going back with the recommendations that we have heard from 19, soon to be the 20th person, with regard to everything that's been said. So with that, we can go to number 20.
Okay. Hello, Commissioners. My name is Fred Dietrich. I live my entire life nearly in Jefferson Township, which is in the northwest corner of Fayette County. My dad was a farmer, and my brother and I now own a tract of 75 acres, which is remnants of the farm, but it's all woods and virtually hunting ground. We have an active agreement with Prospect 14 to build a solar farm, but we received notice that because of this regulations being as restrictive as they are, that it's probably not viable to complete the project on our ground. I guess you fellas have a pretty difficult job. You have to balance between what I want to do with my property and make a few dollars against other people's concerns about being infringed on them. It's kind of a difficult thing, but if you looked at a map with the setbacks as they are in that agreement, and then you highlighted along all the state roads and all the places you wouldn't be able to construct a farm, I think you'd see a good bit of the county. It just by virtue of the proposal as it is, it'd be eliminated. And I think it's only fair to me that I have this potential to receive some money from this, that restricting me out of it just because other people don't want to look at a solar panel across the road. Incidentally, that's another thing that you have to deal with on a fair basis, is somebody goes out and buys a piece of property, and across the road there's a farm with deer and fields, and yet they don't contribute anything to the taxes that property owner has, but yet they're wanting to be able to tell him what he can and cannot do with his property. So you have to regulate the balance fairly between the two of us. There was a lot of discussion about the aftermath, what happens when the equipment is done 20 years, 30 years from now, whatever it is. And I would point out that when strip mining first was involved, there was a lot of bad, the ground was left unattended and ripped up, but through reasonable regulations and making people be bonded, that's now, you get a lot of nice, in the aftermath of the strip mine, there's golf courses and whatnot. So it can be done through reasonable regulation. The limit on 30 acres, there was a gentleman that mentioned that, and I would echo his sentiment that why limit if our particular 75 acres is in a corner, is bordered by a railroad and a river and almost no housing at all, and it could be. I'm up. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
You're okay.
I don't want to stand in line.
No problem.
Do you need to sit down, sir?
No. My name's Joe Noski. I'm from Pencroft. A lot of people made a lot of good points here today. But I'd like to say that my tract of land where they'd like to put a solar panel, a farm that's already in bankruptcy, farms it currently. I've been farming for the last 20 years. All of a sudden they want to build on it. The family that owns that property is SBS. They own 673 acre tract that connects to this property. They could build out in the backside of that on top. They have plenty of top ground. And why did they choose it right across the street from a historical community. Louis Orsolini took it upon himself to get us on a national registry in the state of Pennsylvania to stop the highway. I don't see how they can possibly put that farm there. But again, this family doesn't need the money. It's not a farmer hurting for money. They lease Walmart in Brownsville to Walmart. They own that property also. So why does this 58 acres have to be in my front yard when they can build on 673 acres, the next hill back? And if someone would come out and look at that property, you'd see. I mean, it's all flat land. So that is my concern. I mean, it's not that the farmer needs the money. The farmer that needs the money is farming that land. He's in bankruptcy. So why are they taking that land off of him? He couldn't farm it without their permission. And they don't need that 58 acres there. They don't need that income. They just have a lot of power in this county. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to speak?
If we could keep the side conversations to a minimum, thank you.
My name is Jeannie Martin. I live in Upper Tyrone. And right now we have a company that wants to put a solar field in behind our homes. I'm just going to say this. One thing, that's all I need to say. My home is 57 feet from where they want to start a solar farm. Think about that. Would you want that 57 feet from your home, where your children play, where your grandchildren play, where you garden, where you sit on your deck in the evening? 57 feet. Thank you.
Last call for public comment.
I already spoke, and I had 20 seconds since I didn't use my time.
He had about 20 left.
You had about 20 seconds left. Go ahead.
I just want to say, in the past, with coal stripping, gas leases, a lot of farmers that I know, if it wasn't for them getting that money, they wouldn't be farming today. And the same applies here with some of this, to get some money to supplement is what might keep the farmer, keeping that land tillable. That's all I got to say.
All right, since that's it, I can tell you we also received public comment via email from the following people at Blazak: Nancy Porter, Jason Ford Porter, Morgan Porter, Jonathan Wright, Paul Cania Jr., Larry Doherty, Eric Corbin, and Esta Woolery. And we also received via email a correspondence from Babs Callan, and I think their solicitor talked today. So these will be entered into the public record as part of the minutes.
Have you, all three of you seen that?
Yeah.
Can you thank them for the civil discord?
Yeah, listen, I do want to thank you. You've, I think this has been very productive. You know, everybody was very cordial. There are a lot of people with a lot of different viewpoints. Everybody deserves the right to be heard. That's what this meeting was for, this hearing, and I really want to thank you for coming out and meeting with us. Dave?
Yeah, thank you very much. One thing about it is the one gentleman said, we sit here with having to make a decision, and our decisions are never 100% agreed upon on situations like this. And just to let you know, we'll try our absolute best to make things right, to make it absolutely for the best of the county and the best of our citizens. That's what we do. And I see some township supervisors in here and different ones, and they fit in that same category where they sit sometimes in a decision-making arena, and lots of times when they walk out the door, there are people angry with them. So I don't know what this is going to be like. I'm not finished yet because I also have talked with Daryl from the Farm Bureau on some different things and brought some ideas to him. One being the soil, as I know one of the personnel talked about on soil. You'd have to prove me on some of the soil issues. But at the same time, we also have to deal with clean and green and land preservation with the farmers, because that's another area that we have to pay attention to when it comes to these things because of the tax benefits on those two categories in particular. So I know with the land, or not the land preservation, but clean and green, when things happen with the clean and green property, there are a lot of rules and restrictions on those. And many times a farmer can get beat up pretty bad when it comes to the back taxes that have to be paid because of going over the lines with some of those rules. So yes, this ordinance is tough, and we are trying to work through everything we can possibly do, and just promise you that I know that we will do our absolute best to try and make it right, and to do the best for our county and best for our citizens.
I want to thank everybody for...
How do you announce your meeting so that we could know when you're going to make this decision?
So it'll be at a voting meeting of the Fayette County Commissioners, and we provide a agenda up to 6 days ahead of time.
6
so,
days?
Yes. So
Posted on the website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's posted
On
on our
the
website.
website.
Yes.
Okay, because some of us have to take PTO to be here.
Right.
I just want to thank everybody for their input. We had 20-plus people that commented and made some very good points, and this will help us with our focus on this, to bring this to a decision. So I want to thank everybody, and just so you know, I've never been contacted by any of these solar companies. There's never been one company that has ever contacted me. I feel probably the same for the other commissioners.
Not one. Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, they're going straight to the landowners. They're not coming to us at all.
And they can do business without,
Yeah.
And
no, you don't get no taxes from any of that?
No, we'll get taxes, and that's one of the things that we're working, and actually with the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, we're putting together, like, how are these, this is so prevalent, this is not just here, by the way, so prevalent in the
You
state.
have to approve their zoning permit, correct?
Yes.
Even if they don't contact
Well,
you, but the homeowner.
if they go
the
for a
property-
rezone, if they go for a special exception,
Then
or
it goes to
a
the
variance,
zoning.
it goes to the zoning hearing board. The only one that we had any contact with was after they finished their facility with Mitsubishi. They did invite the commissioners to their groundbreaking, but these companies that are prospecting out there, they've never contacted us, any of us.
The thing that we actually do vote on is rezoning, which if the program falls within the zoning, in the planning and zoning, in that area, then, and it's already zoned properly, then we don't have any voting things dealing with the company.
Are you able to explain this special exception and exactly what it means? And
If you want at the end of the hearing,
Okay.
we'd be glad to stay.
That's done by
I
the
can
zoning hearing
homeowners
board.
do it.
The municipal planning code and our solicitor, Jack Purcell, had sent a public statement about this because there was some confusion. They're a quasi-judicial body, and the commissioners only do the rezoning, so that's it. That's the role we play, and zoning amendments, obviously. But they're like a panel of judges, so we can't interfere with the work that they do. They have a separate and very specific their empowerment under the zoning ordinance and the municipal planning code. So, for instance, if we were to get involved early on with any of these, then the company would want to rezone, and it would come for us. But if we prejudged it, we'd have to recuse ourselves. Is that correct, solicitor?
If you had a financial interest in it.
Right. But if we made a decision beforehand,
Before hearing the public
before
testimony.
hearing the public testimony, we'd have to recuse ourselves, and then we couldn't even make the decision. So we can't really say anything when it comes to the
If it's a
zoning hearing
zoning
board's
hearing
work. our silence isn't that don't care, it's just that we know what our limitations under our empowerment are.
It just seems like that special exception wording came about recently for these types of things.
Actually, spatial exception's been around for a long, long, long time. Ever since zoning's been around.
Since 1968.
Because there's a lot of different things that take place throughout the county when it comes to zoning. And if it fits within the guidelines of the zoning rules to go for a spatial exception, a person has that right to do that. And that's when spatial exception comes in place. So it's been around ever since zoning's been around.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm
okay.
trying to understand.
Sure, that's the way you find out.
Yeah, so, and just to piggyback on what Vince said, Fayette County is part of a census tract that is called an energy community. We did not ask to be an energy community. We were told, actually we found out in June of this year that we have that designation, which is why there is an additional tax credit available through the Department of Energy. I don't know how all that works, I'm not an accountant, but that's why Fayette County and surrounding counties in Appalachia is very attractive now for these solar panels. So again, we are not actively, have not been actively trying to attract solar farms.
Do they have a name for this that we can look it up?
Sure, I'll give that to you. Yeah, I had it online, I don't remember. Any other comments? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Motion's been properly moved and seconded. We are adjourned. Thank you.